If you've ever been to the city of Las Vegas and stood in the Strip with all the lights of the casino shining, you would be hard-pressed to imagine, just by that sight alone, that you were standing in the middle of a desert. Las Vegas is a city in the middle of an enormous desert. And as such, it is a kind of symbol for mankind's predicament. In our first reading, we heard of our fall in the Garden of Eden. Creation was meant to be a home for humankind. We were meant to tend a lush garden that would serve and meet our needs. Yet our sin, our turning away from God, resulted in the world becoming for us not a garden, but a desert. And the desert into which Jesus goes in our gospel for 40 days, is a kind of symbol for our human condition in the wake of sin. We find ourselves living in a kind of emptiness. And the great question for us in our lives is, with what will we fill this emptiness? The way of the world, he tries to distract him with various delights, various powers and glories, again, to cause him to stay there, to cause him to forget God. Of course, God cannot forget God, and the devil did not know really who he was dealing with when he was tempting Jesus. But Jesus, God made human, shows us the way. He shows us how to live in the desert and, little by little, to restore that Garden of Eden that was meant to be our home. Where Adam and Eve filled themselves with the forbidden fruit and find a new emptiness, Jesus fasts. Where Adam and Eve ignore the command of God and listen to the voice of the devil, Jesus hearkens to the voice of his Father. Where Adam and Eve grasp and take the forbidden fruit, Jesus empties himself. These days of Lent are meant for us to be a following of Jesus in this desert, a time when we empty ourselves of all the distractions, of all of the obstacles between us and God. It's tempting when we find ourselves in a desolate place to try to fill our lives with distractions. That's Las Vegas in a nutshell. And it's no accident that it's called Sin City, because that's what sin is. Sin is a distraction. Sin is an attempt to fill the desert with false light, false pleasure. But this Lent we're called to walk away from all of that. And walking away is hard. It involves going into the desert. But we go into the desert to be turned back to God, to know his nearness, to allow him to fill us, and to restore us little by little to that garden of true joy, true peace, for which we were created.